Welcome to the Line Podcast. Very excited to be back with you this week with my amazing co-host, Lee. Great to see you, Lee.
Hello, welcome.
What's been happening in your world recently, mate?
What has been happening in my world? Oh, one thing that I was going to mention this morning is, we was talking about little things that you can't leave and how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
I turned up this morning to the gate and someone so there's a hole at the top and there's a pin that goes down. There's a hole at the bottom. Someone had rammed it down and it had got trapped on the outside of the thing and the gate would open fine and I could have opened the gate and just left it. And instead, I almost broke my thumb because I was like, I'm not leaving that in there like that. And I got it and I was yanking it and it pulled up, smacked my thumb so hard, but now the gate works properly.
Those simple little things are so important. And I think, like we just spoke about self-doubt in the previous episode, like if you leave those things, it grates at you. Like I'm in the gym this morning and that stack of where all the add-on handles and different pieces are. Yeah. I have to clear that up every time. It's like, it's in my psyche and I kind of make a deal of it. If someone leaves it wrong, I just walk up behind them and move it. It's just
just banging about with them.
So annoying. But yeah, it's good. Dude, you like my new stash?
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. Where's
Shout out
mine?
to Justin. Actually, I just ordered some more. So I'll give you one. But like you say, like we're going to talk about standards now, but quality.
Yes.
I looked at the t-shirt. I did have a little laugh. They're vegan.
Right.
This is a vegan top.
Okay, so not made with any chickens or eggs or dairy.
I don't even know what a vegan jumper fucking means, dude. But I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it looks nice, mate.
Cool.
It looks like a good quality one.
Yeah, it's starting to get covered in dog hair, but whatever.
So is that where we're going to get the Aligned podcast merch
so get some
from?
Aligned podcast merch going. Yeah. You're going to get some hats done?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. So if you listen to this episode later on, there might be a link below to get some merch. So get some. Okay, so today we are going to talk about standards.
Standards, something that I am a stickler for. I literally just mentioned there. Holding, personal standards, team to a standard, leading by example, I suppose. Mm-hmm. It's interesting when I help people work out their values for their business. One of the best ways to do it is to think of their anti-value. Like what's the thing that annoys them the most, and the opposite becomes the value of their company. A couple of things for me are seeing tasks through to completion, so cleanliness and timekeeping are massive values of mine. So if someone's late, it really pisses me off. If someone doesn't clean up after themselves, it really annoys me. So creating the standards out of that. But it's so important for ourselves personally, but also those who are running a business or you work in a business and you want to progress your way up. Super important. Like the example, Sarah and I went to a hotel a few weeks back, and it's a 5-star hotel. It's really nice. We've been there several times. Great. Last couple of times we've been, the standards have just dropped ever so slightly. Mm-hmm. You come down to dinner and they don't remember your name, although you just told them that like freaking 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
They would normally walk you to the table and they would carry your drinks, or they just walk and you follow. Simple little things like that. One gets up to the loo. If you go to an establishment like this, they're meant to be straight over, fold your napkin, and then when you come and sit back down, straight over and put it back on your lap. Yeah. Now, I know it's pretentious, but it's standards.
Yeah. And if you pay for those things, you expect those things. If you're going away and you're purposely going away somewhere nice to give yourself that reward for all the time that you've worked throughout the year and throughout the last, whatever it is, 3 months, whatever you're doing, then you wouldn't book that place if you didn't want that service.
True. But I also think it should be there even if we're not paying for those standards. I think it should be like we have people obviously pay to come into our business, but we have it set as a standard. And I would hope that the team do that in their personal lives outside. Yeah. They go into another person's business. I can't stay. You go into a coffee shop and this family leave and there's shit all over the floor after them. And I can't stand that. No. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I always take my cup up to the counter, even when I'm in Starbucks.
Simple things though.
I take my cup back and give them my cup, and they're always like, look at me like shocked, like, thank you.
Yeah, well, your standards are higher than their standards. That's why they're looking at you with shock.
Yeah. But the names thing, I'm so shit with names. I'm so terrible with names. It's something that I really need to work on. I forget names so easily.
Dude, it's such a practice.
Yeah.
But it's the first thing that our team in our practice, in their first week,
I've really noticed
they are tasked with literally just standing up front, meeting and greeting and knowing people's names.
It's really noticeable at Epoch. Like when I'm sat waiting for you for an adjustment, every single person that comes in, and that your team, they don't just say hello in their name. Like they ask them, like the other day, Tuesday, I was in there and Kat was behind the desk and someone walked in and she was like, "How was the wedding?"
Yeah.
Little things like that, like just shows that she actually gives a shit.
But they come, and this is where like a really good thing to think about with standards. The way you make that work is having present time consciousness, being aware of what you're doing in that moment.
Yeah.
So she would only remember, and the team do take notes down, and that really does help. But they would only remember to take the note down, or remember what that person was doing to ask them the question next time they come in, if they were presently conscious the first time.
Yeah.
Whereas so often we are waiting for the next thing to happen, thinking about what's coming next, not focusing on what's happening right now in this moment, which is a big part of how we can begin to think about improving our personal standards and the standards around us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your standards are really a reflection of your character, aren't they?
Yes.
They're just a reflection of who you are. They show the world who you are with no filter, and you can't bullshit about it. Like, for example, your home or your office or your car.
Yeah.
If you go to someone's house and there's shit everywhere, you know what their standards are. You know how they live. You know they're not living right. If you get in someone's car and it's full of crap, you know they're not living right.
Yes.
Like if you came here and there was shit everywhere in my office, you would know that I'm full of shit.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, we could really offend some people now. But like, if you decide to wear a shirt and tie, but your top button isn't done up and your tie's hanging loose.
Yeah. You just
there's a standard.
Yeah, you might as well be wearing a t-shirt. You look better with a t-shirt on than a scruffy shirt and tie. Yeah.
You know, physical health standards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they really are like, you know, it's like going to the doctor and taking advice from a fat doctor. You're just not going to do it. His standards, his or her standards are not where they should be.
No.
And I think this whole setting standards anywhere, you have to be the example of that standard. You cannot. So, you know, so sometimes patients may come in late or they turn up early and I'm there hoovering or something. And they're like, "Oh, you're the boss. Why are you doing the hoovering?" I said, "Well, I would not expect my team to do anything that I wouldn't do." It's leading that level of standard.
And it's just back to the values. You're back to the core values that you live your life by. It's basically that.
Absolutely.
So if people are living without values, and if you are living without values, go back and listen to the episode all about values, and you will see what we're talking about. But by setting those values, you set your standards.
Yes.
And if you live by those values, your standards will be kept high.
And so standards are important for I think every facet of our life, from our family, our health, our relationships, our business. Why do you think people don't have the standards they used to? So I think, like, we started watching a film last night and it was shit, so I turned it off. But it was set a while ago. I can't remember what it's called. It's a new film, like about an old guy who becomes sick and then starts to live his life. But back in the time where people used to ride the steam train to work, they used to wear the tombola hats and called everybody by Mr. Surname.
Yep.
Their standards were high. Their cleanliness was high. They were polite. And then Sarah and I went for a walk in the woods yesterday, and there was this group of kids, obviously challenged kids with their teachers doing some activities, shouting their mouth off, being rude, disrespectful. And I just thought, where has this change in standards come from? Like, where has it come from?
I thought about this the other day.
What are your thoughts on it?
So I thought about this the other day, not before we even mentioned doing this as a podcast. And I think that one thing for me that I think is really different is the influence that we've had. So I grew up around every single day. I used to go and see my grandparents. And my granddad was a Lancaster crew. He fought in the Borneo jungle. He trained with the Gurkhas. He was an absolute savage machine. Like he was shot down over Germany, shot down over Berlin, captured prisoner of war, escaped the POW camps, went to Poland, met a woman. The woman got killed in front of him. He escaped, could speak fluent German. Like he lived a life. And I was exposed to a lot of that when I was growing up. Like he would tell me about it all, and he would tell me all of his stories and what happened. And going back to sacrifice and struggle, like I saw that he told me about his crew and his team who got murdered and killed in front of him. And I was really aware that people sacrificed for us. And I was thinking about the generation of today, and like most people don't know their great-grandparents, even their names. A lot of people don't know their great-grandparents' names. So the kids of today, and even the young adults of today, never had influences in their lives who were at war or who went through massive struggle. Like it's been cushy for a long time. And I think not having that and not seeing that affects people's standards a lot. Everybody thinks that, like I mentioned in a previous episode, everybody thinks that life's just easy and they're entitled to things and they deserve things, and nobody deserves anything. You've got to work for it.
I agree, and I think there's got to be a kickback coming. I see it with hiring. Like, fucking some people who turn up for interview just expect
the world.
Like they just expect.
Yeah.
And that's why we send them our values before they start. They know what we're about. We know what we stand for. And if they don't live up to the values within the first couple of weeks, they leave. And we had to do that to someone not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I know my team listen to this, and I know I cannot actually express how much I love my team.
Yeah,
like they really live up to the values. They're amazing people, and they have an influence in literally thousands of lives through that practice.
Yeah,
and that's because they lead by example.
They do.
No matter what they're doing, lead by example. And I think we have to get back to this idea that we do have to put some effort in for what we want to achieve. We do have to work for what we want to achieve, and it's not a given.
No,
like I think we spoke recently. We did the podcast on starting your own business, and I think I mentioned in there like, oh, you get past 5 years of business, you made it, and I said that's bullshit because it's not. You have to continuously progress and push forward, and I think that comes with setting the standard. There's a great book on, I can't remember what it's called, but it's about starting a small business, and I'm sure I've given this example on here before. But the example of the person who goes to the hairdressers and gets a coffee when they go, and they have a great experience and a great coffee. And they do that several times, and then they'll go for their third or fourth haircut, and they get a great haircut and a great experience, but they don't get the coffee.
And they're like, where's my coffee?
Where's my coffee? That slight drop in standards has had a massive change on how that person perceives the experience.
Yeah.
So the difficulty is, and the shooting yourself in the foot comes, it's the highest you've ever set your standards has to be the lowest that you'll ever set your standards ever again.
In the future, yeah.
Because people will see it.
Yeah. It is constant growth in all areas. That's just basically what everything boils down to. If you're not growing, you're moving backwards. Like Tony Robbins says, if you're not growing, you're dying. But if you're not, I think that's difficult for people to get their head around. But when you sit with that thought for a long time, you actually understand it. So I always say, like, if you're not moving forwards, you're moving backwards. If you're not growing, you are dying.
Yeah.
And it's just constant growth. It's like this podcast room, for example. Every single time you come here, something's different.
I know. You've got a new light up there.
Yeah. But it was pretty good at the beginning. Yeah. But like you just keep progressing and keep making things better. And one thing that I think is your standards let other people know how to treat you. So some people say to me, oh, they did that to me, or she spoke to me like this and they did that to me. And I always say, you allowed them to.
You get what you tolerate.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% get what you tolerate.
You allowed them to do that to you. So by setting your own standards, like if somebody does something that you don't want them to do to you, then don't accept it. Like, leave.
Well, that's honesty and accountability, isn't it? Like, calling someone out on something at that time will prevent it from becoming an issue in the future.
Yeah.
So suppose on that note, think about standards. We're talking a lot really actually about traits and values.
Yep.
Which create the standard that someone lives by. Because you can say, a standard of a place is its cleanliness. Well, that's actually driven by the personal responsibility of the individuals within that establishment. Mm-hmm. So what are some traits, like if you were to, I suppose I see this in like, I've joked quite often then I have like 2 friends because I won't hang out with people who don't have the same values as I do, essentially the same standards that I do.
Yeah.
So what are some traits or values or standards that you really admire or are just non-negotiable for you in your life? And that you would encourage people to really consider if they haven't got already?
I would say just having an attention to detail in everything. Like I've said before, but I never used to have this attention to detail. I never used to be so meticulous about things. And I think people think too often that if you say like a trait, it's something that you're born with, you either got or you haven't got. And that's not the case. I think everything is a skill. Everything can be learned. Everything, I believe.
Yes.
I believe if you're not good at anything, you can learn to be fairly good at it. There's obviously the outliers who are like freaks of nature in their particular field, but you can learn to be detail orientated. You can learn to give a shit about the small things. And that's what I've done over time. And I think that that's a really good place to start.
I completely agree. And I do think it's an excuse. People are like, that's just not me. I'm not like that.
I hear it all the time. Oh, you're just different. I'm not like you.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
There's only a few things you're born with. Your gender and your hair colour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, don't even get me started on that. So
yeah.
We're getting pulled off there before we even started. So that's the only 2 things you're born with. So these traits are things that you develop.
Yes.
Like I was thick as pig shit at school. Like I was like dyslexic, never sat an examiner in a main room, always had extra time. Always scored the bottom of the class. And I just had to submit my university certificate for a visa. I got a merit. Like when I went to university, I now read like nobody's business. I speak from the stage as someone who couldn't even hold a conversation years ago.
Yeah.
You develop these things. And I think the detail orientation is great. And I used to say a thing to the team, Sarah stopped me because she said it's not very politically correct. I used to say ATFD. Every time they did something right or right, ATFD, which means attention to fucking detail.
Yeah.
She said I had to.
I should have kept it. I think you should have kept it.
I like it. But if they just got something wrong, it was like ATFD. But it's just that trigger. It's that trigger to go.
Yeah.
But attention to detail, like I literally couldn't have said it better myself because it comes into everything. What's the detail in your timing? Like, have you got up early? Have you prepped enough? Are you going to be on time or early? What's your attention to detail in your nutrition? What's your attention to detail in your training? What's your attention to detail in the follow-up or the email that you sent or the introduction that you've given?
Every aspect.
I think it's a brilliant way of thinking about it.
Every aspect. And if you want proof that traits are not given and learned, when you said I graduated with a merit,
yes,
I didn't know whether that was good or bad. I left school when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
15. I got kicked out of my exam. I got kicked out of school early, and then I was allowed to go back for some exams. So the reason I got kicked out was because I was disruptive in more. If he was disruptive in more than 3 lessons, or they brought a thing in where if he was disruptive in a number, and I was disruptive in like 9 lessons, and I think I only took 10 or 11.
We're gonna have to cut that out because my mum listens to this. She's gonna say I'm hanging out with the wrong person.
But the point is, you can change.
You can.
Yeah,
you can.
You don't have to. You're not given your. You're not your past. Your future does not equal your past, basically. And and I've been through loads of different things in life that we'll get into in future podcasts because we're nearly at the end of this one. But I've turned it around. And if you decide to set higher standards for yourself now, in 5 or 10 years, you will see them you won't see them as standards. You'll see them as habits and just the way you live your life. 100%.
And I think if you're listening to this and it's ruffling a few feathers, it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Like we all need to become like better. The world is soft. It is that saying, hard times create strong men create easy times create soft men. Like that's where we are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of soft people around physically, financially, spiritually, in business, in their relationships. So if you set your standards higher, you'll have a better relationship, you have a better business, you have better physical health, and you will just have a better existence day to day. And it's on nobody but you.
Yeah. And if you want a book that demonstrates that, The Fourth Turning is really good.
Cool.
It's about the cycles of life over the 80-year periods and how we go through different
What's it called?
The Fourth Turn-In.
The Fourth Turn-In.
I'm sure it's called The Fourth Turn-In, yeah.
Cool. Not listen to it, read it.
Yes.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody. As always, please do share the show. We are probably going to be going to more regular episodes if we've not already. So please subscribe on YouTube. I've looked at the stats the other day and a lot of people are coming in through the Explore and the search page, but a lot of you are not subscribed. A massive percentage of you are not subscribed. So please do hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you're notified when the next episode is out. Thanks so much for listening. If you're listening on podcasts, a review would be much appreciated. And thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Lee.
See you next time.
You will.